do you really have to go to the show? Do you have to go spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever it is, $1,000, or should you just go scout the show?
So Matt, what is your zodiac sign? Are you a Scorpio? Sagittarius. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So
Not sure if that's a good thing or not.
I have a trade show coming up in 45 days that my VP of sales was just like, dude, we got to be here. We got to sponsor. We're going to be a gold sponsor. Got to be here. We're going to work up like a 10 by 20 booth. I'm having a hard time kind of just like about where to even start. Like I have the option to just show up and like hand out flyers. But like if somebody called you up and said that this is the scenario, where would you, what's the ledge you'd walk me off of? Like, where would you start?
So we do get a lot of leads. That is very common, right? 30, 40, 50, 60 days away is the show. We've just decided we're going to exhibit. We need this. I mean, it typically, no offense to the company, I get why the companies do it, right? I mean, it's fine. We all do it. I mean, I've done it where we're like, oh no, we should go. Let's try to pull it together.
For sure.
Typically, you just know from our side going in, like, not that they don't have their shit together, but like they're not ready for this at all.
Correct.
Right? So we just know that inherently right up front. Really, some of the questions that we try to get to pretty quickly is like, are you sure? Like, are you positive? Sure? And a lot of times people are. They're like, no, audience is there. We know it. They know, but they don't know. But we do at least try to ask that and say, like, you positive? Like, what are you wanting to get from this? Who's going to be there? How does that benefit you? How does it drive your pipeline? Like, are you, right?
And what's a reasonable expectation from that?
Is there enough people? Do you have enough audience to drive pipeline? Like, we do try to get to that at times. It's hard. Some people just want a booth. They want to go fast and they don't want to talk about that stuff. They're like, can you help me or can you not help? So typically what the process looks like is just trying to understand, like, from the trade show booth perspective, most of those people are not looking to spend a crazy amount of money. They just want something simple, easy, and go. We have what we call ready to go booths. What we think are like simple, basic, but cool concepts. That our design team has created. 10 by 10, 10 by 20, 20 by 20, 20 by 30. They're typically lower-ish cost. They have some basic fundamental elements in them that we think a lot of people, use. And what we'll do is we basically throw some options at them and say, hey, this process from here moving forward, it's not just you saying, yes, I want that booth, right? You're going to have to create graphics. That's typically the biggest snag from our side with clients. They say yes, they sign on a dotted line, but now we got to create graphics. Now you got to make sure you create media. Now you got to make sure, there's a lot of things that go into it. So if I was advising like a friend and not somebody I don't know that was just like a lead that comes through the company, it would probably be the same thing. Like, let's very quickly establish why you're going to the show and what you want to accomplish, right? From there, I would say graphics, content, media, messaging, we don't have a ton of time to play around. So we can't get too deep into the weeds. So do you have messaging that that works? Do you have a brand differentiation or a brand play piece element that works? Do you have any media or content that you want to do that works? And then from an engagement side, it's like, let's keep it simple here. We're not going to be able to develop a game, probably not going to have a ton of time to build out an experience or book I don't say book a restaurant, but book, because all that shit gets booked up so fast. So it's just knowing you're kind of getting bare bones. From our side, we do the best job to be able to say, hey, showing them visuals. This is what we can do for you. We can get this here. We can get it branded for you. We can make sure it goes up, it goes down and all that. And that usually alleviates some pain from them right away. But I mean, 30 days is tight. 30 days is tight. The alternative I see a lot of people do is they slap up banner stands and pop-up walls and some step and repeats. They're, running around to Home Depot to get stuff and running. It's like, becomes a little bit of a waste of energy, I'd say. Next thought would be just like pure guerrilla marketing. Pure like, what are you going to do to draw attention there?
So let's talk a little bit about what you said. So it is possible to get like a pop-up ready booth as long as you're able to support with the graphics and you kind of know the messaging that you want to put on it and you want to look at it. So like if I'm walking in there, my VP of sales walks in and says, we got to be there. I'm making a call to Rockway, just get you rolling on the pop-up booth and get that space. And I'm immediately getting on with the design team of just like, we're going to need graphics. We're going to need messaging. I'm getting on with copywriters of just like, what do you need to write?
We're going to try to show you 3D concepts of trade show booths that you can rent or lease like a car. Like, oh, I like that one. That feels like, if, we put our branding on there, that would work. And then our communication back to you is like, we have some clients that like to handle their own graphics. They want to design their own graphics. They want to create the layout on the booth and give us the files so we can print when we build. Sometimes we handle it. Sometimes our designers, we have 1099 designers that come up with concepts and create it. That's tight timing. You have to have files ready to go where you need to make it super basic. You have to be very clear on, okay, this is the design. And it's like, you got to choose a paint for the house. Can't be a custom paint. You got to decide, what do you want to do? Let's keep it simple. And then our job is to then get either you or our graphic designer direction and files and sizes so we can move quickly, because that's what holds it up. A lot of times we're ready to build, we're ready to go, we can get it out the door for you. Graphics hold it up, furniture selection holds it up, sourcing giveaways. I mean, all the things that you then think about that you want to need. It's just a tight time frame.
Makes sense. If this is happening, would it make sense, like, if I'm like, all right, cool, got it, tight time frame, you can support me with the booth, you can support me with graphics, I can create my own graphics. Would it make sense for me to like fly out to the venue 40 days out just so I can like see what edge I can get, like get familiar with the space, maybe like uncover a restaurant or something like that?
No, I mean, they have floor plans, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're going to work from a floor plan.
Yeah.
You're going in last minute. They're probably going to have minimal availability. You're going to have to take what you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
So you have to look at the floor plan. And then look, I mean, a lot of companies, when they're tight time frames, they operate independently on a lot of this stuff. So whether they're going to do a dinner or book a space, you're kind of flying blind, honestly.
Yeah,
It's tough. It is tough. It is when you do last minute. But I would still say, if you're doing something last minute and you're not sure, my overall advice would be to just temper the spend. Do something simple, basic, go, check it out, and then come back and build out. Because if you're doing it with 30, 40 days, you typically don't have a plan. You know, you typically don't. You're just like, either you're going because your competitors are there and you saw that they're going. You're going because you just found out about it and you thought it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
You're going because some budget has opened up, right? And you're like, oh shit, let's use it. Let's go to the, like, it's not planned and it's not premeditated enough where you could start to think about how you want to go about it. So like, you're kind of going just to go.
So then realistic expectations, then temper spend so that you're not
Temper
like
spend, for
going
sure.
all in on the first thing, and then
You also don't
like,
want to have some shitty, I mean, that, that's the other thing. Like,
Yeah.
don't go and spend, but do it so cheap and minimally just to be there. I would recommend not doing that and just send 2-3 people to go to the show, check out the show, and do that, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of in the middle. You don't have to go nuts and go overboard, but if you want to have a presence, you should have a decent presence. You have to know how you're going to engage with your customers so you're able to do it there.
Yeah, so focus really on all right, so there's like a minimum spend of like show up and don't look stupid.
Yes.
Right? And then go in on really mapping out an engagement strategy. You said guerrilla marketing, right? Like I assume that elbow grease goes a long way of just like getting on the conference app, DMing people, setting up meetings, hitting your list to see who
I mean,
can.
if you're
who can
30
be there.
days out, I mean, have you even started pre-show marketing? Does anybody know you're going to be there? Has your sales team, contacted anybody from their prospecting list? Do you have an ABM strategy? Have you, what's your offer? So you're just going to have the booth and wait for people to come by? Like, what's your offer to get people? We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
People talk about pre-show marketing. We're doing a show next week actually with it. What is your offer? You need an offer.
Give me an
You need
example of
something
what
intriguing.
does an offer look like? Like, what do you mean by what's your offer?
It could be anything. Let's use our example from Exhibitor Live.
Yeah.
We had a podcast.
Yeah.
Our offer was to have them come on and highlight them and have a discussion about their knowledge and what they're working on in a podcast. People love to talk about their business. They love to talk about what they're doing. Yeah. That's an offer. So then what we're doing is, in our outreach, the offer is, hey, we saw you, recognize you'll be at Exhibitor Live. We see you as an event marketer, some experience. Like, would you love to come talk about experiential marketing? Would you love to come talk about event planning? Like, what piece excites you? That's an offer to come do this. Then when they get there, we have a process for them where we check them in, we bring them on the podcast. We have a giveaway that fits them and suits them to put them in. It's an offer to intrigue them to come over. Other offers that are always pretty good is like fun games. Like, people will develop and create these like fun, engaging games that draws attention where you're trying to get people to come over and try it. That's more grab them out of the aisle type stuff, right? That's more like buzz, have people there. You're bringing, hey, do you want to try? Do you want to, like Blue Hive, Caitlin and them, when they did Exhibitor Live, they had a really cool thing where they had, how do I describe it? You have to like step up in, and they had this, they built like a beehive around you because that's their whole thing. And then I believe there was some sort of, I didn't do it, but either a headset or some sort of like visual engagement that you went through in there. But it was cool. Like, you could see it. And that's something where you pull people in to, go through.
Yeah.
Other what's the offers are basically things like panel speaking sessions, demos, think tanks. I mean, just think about the stuff that people do on the show floor. So how are you getting people to come over, drive them value?
Yep. Makes sense. Makes sense. Anything else to think about with that one, man? So it's
tight time frames.
Tight time frame. So temper spend, but either spend enough to look good, or don't, or just send a couple of people. Have the expectation of things being booked, so you're gonna have to be like extra resourceful. Know your offer so that you're like able to like engage people in.
I think scouting, like the concept we talked about originally, which is like, do you really have to go to the show? Do you have to go spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever it is, $1,000, or should you just go scout the show? show? Should you go scout it? Should you go check it out and then come back and say, okay, this is how I would go do this? A lot of times it's FOMO. You think you have to be there. You think you have to be in the booth. You drop 50, 60 grand and you don't. Or sometimes you get, I wouldn't say lucky, but it happens to where you were like, you go, you spend the money and you're like, okay, this could be good for us.
Yeah.
We need to re-strategize this.
Yeah.
We need to do A, B, and C. And then you can get in the gear and get in the motion of saying, how do we, we've had clients who come to us and say, how do we do this differently? How do we do it better? And we're like, okay, well, let's kind of begin with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. And then all the ideas and the design and the pre-show marketing and everything that we're going to do is going to stem from that. That's an important one, I think.
Okay. I like that, man. All right. So I feel like that's a pretty good
And
game plan.
then know that you're going to have tight timelines. Like, just know that, like, know you're going to be required to deliver graphics, know that you're going to have to make decisions. Yeah. Like it moves very quickly. Mm-hmm. And there are so many moving parts in a trade show that if you do contract a company like ourselves or anybody else and you're working in a tight window, help them help you, right? Mm-hmm. Like help them help you, because one thing slips through the crack in a trade show, disaster happens, and nobody wants that.
What does help them help you look like? Be super attentive on their emails and like responsive, like what
yeah,
else?
I mean, help them help you looks like when you sign the contract and they've given you the expectations of deadlines of graphics to say, hey, it's February 14th. Mm-hmm. You've signed this. We know it's tight time frame. We're going to send you the graphic layout, or again, either they're going to do the graphics or your designer's going to do it, but like you need to give direction to our designer. Mm-hmm. We need your brand files. We need your vector files. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. You can't be like, oh, well, we want to do this, but now we want, our CMO just popped in and said we want to do this. It's like, you don't have time.
Yeah.
You're already behind the eight ball. So just understand that as you get into it, mm-hmm. because I've seen, there have been disasters that have happened. I mean, God, we've picked up business from it, mm-hmm. where someone's like, oh, we're last minute. They didn't get us to this. They stopped responding to us. Like, it does happen.
Yeah. So simplify,
yeah.
Be quick about the things that you need to turn around. Focus on like the guerrilla stuff that you can do, hustle, and know your offer, know the way that you're going to engage in the booth and in the hallways and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, keep it simple, keep it clean, and then just try to say, how can I make the most impact in the kind of the slowest time? Do you have contacts there? Can you leverage people at that show that you have good relationships with, right?
Yeah.
But it's a tough one, man.
What does leveraging people the show with good relationships look like?
Well, you're in an industry,
yeah,
right? So I always look to people that have partnerships, distributor channels, referral relationships, right? Like what does your ecosystem in that business look like? Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to a show, I'm not just banking on the people that I think I'm going to meet that I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about who I know at that show. Who are the relationships I have? Mm. What do they do? Right? What kind of experience do they have? Yeah. Can I partner with them? Can we throw a dinner together?
Yeah.
Can I reach out and say, hey, can we help? You just have to think about who's going to be there and how you can and leverage it, really. That's
cross-pollinate audiences, essentially.
Yeah, because a lot of time people's hope is they go to the show and they just hope they're going to meet all these brand new people. And yes, you do, without a doubt. Yeah. But if you've not pre-show marketed, you don't have targeted accounts, if you've not have an offer built out, if you're just showing up last minute, you're kind of leaving it to chance.
Start with the people you know.
Yeah, man, I would.
I like it, man.